Now around this point in time, 9 times out of 10, an engineer player will say that the Jag is the best wrench in the game, and if you use anything else, well, you might as well be shooting yourself in the foot. The Jag has become the wrench of choice in the pub metagame, even trumping out the tried and true pillar of engineer gameplay that is the stock wrench. Now, by far, the most appealing attribute for this wrench is that 30% faster construction time on buildings. But as a downside to this, the Jag has a 20% slower repair rate and a 33% damage penalty against buildings. That is, you heal slower and it takes 3 swings to knock off a spy sapper instead of 2. But many argue that these downsides are greatly dampened by that 15% faster swing speed. The Jag also has a 25% melee damage penalty, which can be also argued as effectively null by the existence of random crits and the engineer's higher chance of getting random crits anyhow. That makes the Jag a really viable option on paper. I pose this question: is the Jag actually as good as everyone makes it out to be, or is the stock wrench just as viable? Let's find out. Well, now hold on one second. The stock wrench isn't just as viable as the Jag. The Jag has a faster swing speed, which almost cancels out that 20% slower repair rate. But hold on, the stock wrench has no swing speed or repair penalties, so 2 swings from the stock wrench are just as good as 3 from the Jag, but the Jag's random crits make up for its damage penalty. However, the stock wrench can still 2-shot a spy without them, and 2 swings from the stock wrench are still faster than 3 from the Jag. But hold on, the Jag has a faster build and upgrade rate, but...
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
I suggest you don't worry about this sort of thing and just enjoy yourself. That goes for you all, too.
Yes.
Now, as a man of science, we are going back once again to that tried and true test to see if one weapon can outperform another. Giving credit where credit is due, thanks again to Toofty TV for hammering out this method that I've since adopted as my own. Now, to review, the method is just to play an equal number of rounds using each of the 2 items in question on the same map as your environmental control, and then collect performance stats to see which of the 2 items performs better. Now, before moving forward, we have to consider this. What makes for good engineer gameplay that can be recorded in collectible data? Now, in previous analyses, I've only kept track of 3 stats: damage, points, and kills. But the engineer is far more complex than that. The engineer's buildings are an extension of himself in play, ergo their impact is just as important as his own. So this time around, I'll be collecting data on 6 key stats that are more reflective of the engineer's performance in total: points per minute, kills per minute, damage per minute, but also SENTRY kills per minute, healing done per minute, and teleports per minute. Now, with these stats in mind, my environmental control this time around will be payload Badwater. This map's pacing and topography bring out all aspects for well-rounded engineer gameplay, from SENTRY positioning to keeping up a teleporter for his team. That being said, I will be playing 50 full rounds of Badwater. That's attack and defense. 25 rounds using the Jag and 25 rounds using the stock wrench. 25 rounds each should be a large enough of a sample pool to mitigate any influence from unbalanced teams, random crits, my own inconsistent playstyle and incompetence, varying team composition, script kiddies, crits, kriegs, etc, etc, etc. As for my loadouts of choice, I'm gonna be keeping it nice and simple. I'll be using either the stock wrench or the Jag paired with the stock shotgun and the stock pistol. This will ensure that all of my interactions with my buildings are limited to my wrench rather than something like the Rescue Ranger, which won't skew any of the stats that are reflective of my buildings and therefore my ability to keep them up with my wrench of choice. Now, with all that being said, I gotta go play 50 rounds of Badwater. Oh, hey, brief interjection in post. Yes, I know Uncle Dane made a video about how to play engineer on Badwater, but I finalized this portion of my script 3 days before he released that video, and I already had good data from Badwater that I didn't want to go to waste, so fuck it! Oh look, he's copying Uncle Dane by playing engineer on Badwater! Why do we have 4 engineers?! Well, now that was absolute hell, but here are the results. The green values show the wrench that took that particular stat, and the red values show the wrenches that lost that stat. And the yellow values, well, they show stats that are just too close to call a clear winner. The results actually surprised me a bit, and I'm gonna start masking my accent again because I gotta, actually describe shit. The stock wrench either meets up to or outperforms the Jag across all stats, except for one. Health dispensed per minute. The Jag's healing is more than 1.5 times that of stock. However, the stock wrench is the clear winner on sentry kills per minute, with the stock wrench sentries getting more than 1.5 times as many kills as Jag sentries. But we can also see that the stock wrench outperforms the Jag on general kills and points per minute by a decent amount. In a really strange contradiction to this, the Jag effectively ties with the stock wrench on damage per minute. There's only an approximately 22 damage per minute difference between the two, which amounts to only one full health soldier or buffed light class every 10 minutes or so, give or take a bit. And lastly, there is a perfect tie on teleports between the two wrenches. So what does this all mean? Remember that 15% faster swing speed? That doesn't exactly translate into a 20% slower healing rate, as advertised. With the adjusted attack speed, the Jag's 81 health per swing heals at 119 health per second, and the stock wrench's 102 health per swing heals at about 127 health per second. Calculating the actual healing rate difference, and we get a 7% decrease from stock, not 20%. So, as others have shown before, this means less burst healing rather than a slower healing rate. This is the single greatest drawback when you are using the Jag. You have a much harder time dealing with a lot of incoming damage at once, and you are less likely to keep your buildings alive during a focused attack. Ergo, your building longevity goes way down. You're tanky with the stock wrench, but you are much squishier with the Jag. But the faster build and swing speeds with the Jag are likely why it outperforms the stock wrench in terms of healing. You can quickly rebuild and move dispensers when they go down to get health flowing to your team again, even if it's just a level 1. And since this building is typically tucked away out of the line of fire, it can be quickly re-upgraded again with the Jag's faster swing speed. You simply dish out more health with the Jag because dispensers take less time to build and upgrade, and they don't go down as often as sentries. But what about the equal number of teleports per minute between the two wrenches? Well, like dispensers, teleporters aren't usually too close to the front line. In fact, they're way further behind the front line in comparison to dispensers and sentries. So once they go up, they are less likely to go down as often as dispensers and way less often than that of sentries. And from my experience playing these 50 rounds of Badwater, teleporters are also the drop and go kind of building, because more often than not, teammates will swap to engineer at spawn to help upgrade or repair your teleporter, since it's usually in their best interest to do so. So your ability to teleport teammates to the fight is essentially equal with either wrench. Now, by far, the most interesting result is that the stock wrench appears to be the winner for kills, points, and sentry kills per minute, but the damage output between sentry guns when using either the stock wrench or the Jag is nearly the same. This is what I suspected, because the trade-offs for the faster build and upgrade times with the Jag are not just limited to what you see in the red text. They also cause altered sentry DPS throughout a round. Let me explain. Recall that level 2 and 3 sentries have a higher damage per second, or DPS, than a level 1 sentry, meaning that they are more deadly if you get caught out by one. When using the Jag, an engineer can't keep his sentries up for too long in general because of that lower burst healing. Even though he can build and upgrade them faster, they are less likely to survive to get to level 3 and are also less likely to survive once they get there. Ergo, you build fewer high DPS level sentries in the long run. But when your sentry goes down, you can toss up another low level sentry gun lickety-split and start dealing damage again. This means you have lower level guns up more often, creating a more constant stream of low sentry DPS. On the flip side to this, with the stock wrench, an engineer can keep up any sentry for longer periods of time with normal burst healing, and he is more likely to keep that gun alive and get it to level 3 and therefore maximum DPS. But it takes longer to get one built and upgraded in general. This means fewer opportunities for getting a sentry built at all, but more chances for higher DPS. DPS. Picture it like this, and please bear with the visual representation of what is essentially going to be a line integral, but hopefully you will catch my drift. Imagine your SENTRY DPS as a function of time throughout a round, just as a simple stair-stepping function that evolves with time. The JAG gives you a more constant stream of low DPS guns that can keep the pressure on the enemy team, but they lack the higher firepower that can push them beyond that deadliness threshold. The flow of damage is more constant because of your faster building speed, but weaker. On the other hand, the stock wrench gives you intermittent, more deadly ramp-ups of damage with high DPS guns, but these bursts of damage are fewer between because of your slower overall building speed. So qualitatively, if we take the area beneath the two curves, we can see that they are more or less equal, ergo equal DPS for the same amount of time, but their evolution through time is much different. So we get more kills with the stock wrench sentries because your guns have higher, deadlier DPS more often than JAG sentries, but we get that equal damage output rate on average per round because the JAG makes up for fewer level 3 sentries with a more constant damage output overall. Ooh, lordy. Now what can we say about overall performance between the two wrenches? Is there a clear winner? Well, now for some, it may just depend on what playstyle they're going for. The JAG lets you keep up with your team. You can get buildings up very fast to support them, but you have a harder time keeping them alive in the long run. Even though you can level them up faster, you are squishier. The stock wrench promotes a quote-unquote turtling playstyle. You are slower, but stronger, like a tank. So if I had to pick a winner, well, I'm going to say the stock wrench. The numbers support it, and I found myself able to perform just fine with it, either on offense or on defense. Now, the JAG is perfectly fine too. In fact, these results show that it's an equal side grade rather than a straight upgrade as many people like to believe. However, the choice is ultimately yours. This is just my ultimate conclusion. Well, that and the stock wrench is much nicer when dealing with spies. You don't have to worry about that annoying 25% lower melee damage penalty, and you can remove sappers faster, by about half a second in fact. Not that the damage penalty on the wrench matters anyways, because random crits are so fucking ridiculous on the engineer's melees that every swing might as well be a crit.
This sucks, man.
Oh, hey, hold up a sec, I forgot about something. Now, normally I usually feel uncomfortable promoting this kind of platform since I'm basically asking you for your money, but I went ahead and made a Patreon. Look, any money that I make from my Patreon will go directly back into my videos. There aren't any reward tiers for supporters either. I don't want to get stretched thin by obligations that would otherwise eat into what little time I already have for making videos, and I want everyone to have pure open access to everything that I make, but the money greases the gears a bit. Please don't feel obligated to support me financially either. I'm just someone who makes these videos as a hobby, but if you want to throw a few bucks my way to help me out, it's much appreciated and I'm not going to complain. This will be the first and last time that I ever announce my Patreon's existence. Beyond this, it will only be a link in the future descriptions of my future videos. That's it. Also, what's with these outros lately? Just some lame-ass B-roll panning shots of TF2 maps. Roll out that new shit, boy! Literally need a season card. Yes! I fucking got it, dude! Yo, General Mr. You got any good games on that shit?
Waldo Sniper.
Only porn.